Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is flashing multiple new signals in the short term that we need to pay attention to on this Bitcoin price chart and also this Bitcoin chart, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside massive Bitcoin news today and other financial news that we need to pay attention to, while the price of Ethereum is now flashing a new signal in the shorter term, while the price of XRP is now potentially repeating history. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin charts today, we need to take a look at the Bitcoin news today, because a matter of hours ago, just over the last one day, Michael Saylor officially announced that Strategy, previously known as MicroStrategy, has once again just bought more Bitcoin. And this is not a small purchase. This is a very large purchase, even for Strategy. This time around, they bought over 22,000 Bitcoin for almost $2 billion US. 2 billion with a B. And so in case you're wondering, at least as of right now, Strategy, the company, once again previously known as MicroStrategy, currently holds around 528,185 Bitcoin. So almost 530,000 Bitcoin that they acquired for a total of approximately 35.5 billion US dollars. But right now, that Bitcoin that they're holding is currently worth a lot more than just 35 billion. And so basically, one of the largest Bitcoin whales in the world is continuing to buy more and more Bitcoin, basically anytime they can. Anytime they can raise spare funds or they have extra US dollars that they have available, basically they just put that money into Bitcoin to accumulate even more Bitcoin. And in case you're new to all of this, Strategy, along with a lot of the massive buyers out there, the massive Bitcoin whales, they often make these purchases basically not on a crypto exchange. For example, they do it over the counter called OTC. And so when you do that, you don't necessarily have a direct impact on the price of Bitcoin. So obviously buying $2 billion is not necessarily going to pump the price of Bitcoin immediately, because this is an OTC transaction. But over the long term, obviously as Strategy takes more and more Bitcoin off the market, basically, obviously that reduces the circulating supply of Bitcoin, the liquid Bitcoin that's been traded around. And when there's less Bitcoin available, that can help force the price towards the upside over the longer term. And so in other words, this might not necessarily have a direct impact straight away on the price of Bitcoin, but over the long term, if more and more Bitcoin is being bought up, especially by larger players, this is simply just going to force the price towards the upside. And with that being said, we also have some other news today that we need to pay attention to. And this is, of course, the fact that the Trump tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, will be coming into effect on the 2nd of April, April 2nd. And now, obviously, everyone's known about this for quite some time. He's already announced this quite a while ago, but essentially, this is one of the reasons as to why the stock market in particular, and by extension, the crypto market, has been kind of selling off over the last few weeks or so in anticipation of this happening. But at least in my opinion, this could possibly be the opposite of a buy the rumor, sell the news event. Once again, this is typically bearish for the markets. Tariffs, at least in the short term, are typically bearish for the markets. So basically, a lot of people were selling off in anticipation of this happening, but then perhaps when we reach April 2nd, we might end up perhaps bottoming or seeing a bit of a bounce. Basically, the opposite of a buy the rumor, sell the news. Once again, basically sell the rumor, buy the news. And so just keep this in mind as well, potentially with some uncertainty being lifted from the market when these go into place. Basically, perhaps later this week, we may end up seeing a bit of a bounce of some sort if things turn out to not be too bad on April 2nd. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin price charts today, on the 4-day time frame, the super trend indicator is still currently sitting in the red, so nothing's really changed on this chart over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, obviously, at least for now, the MACD is still looking more bearish than it is bullish. But as I've said, just in recent weeks here on the channel, over the last couple of weeks, give or take, we've basically slowed down the bearish momentum. As we can see, at least in the histogram, it's starting to flatline and potentially bottom, basically telling us that potentially the worst is behind us in terms of the momentum towards the downside. And so once again, I want to make this clear, it is not looking bullish right now. It's just not necessarily as bad as what it was looking like a few weeks ago. And of course, on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence to pay attention to, which obviously has been playing out over the last few months or so, since pretty much the end of 2024 and the beginning of this year, as I've been saying since back then, months ago now on the channel. And so basically, this is telling us we should not necessarily expect any significant bullish momentum anytime soon. Of course, we can see some short-term bullish price action here and there, but just no massive momentum towards the upside, at least anytime soon. But with that being said, taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, and right now, obviously, we've continued that rejection from this 38.2% Fibonacci level of resistance, sitting at close to 88,000. We also have this level, which we've just recently broken below, and that's sitting at just above 83,000, around 83.3K, which was previously acted as a bit of support right here, acting as support, but is now acting as a bit of resistance in the short term. But of course, we have other important support and resistance levels to watch out for in the short term, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But first, looking at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously we still have major resistance within this area in between around 86,000 to 88,000. So once again, that 88K level is definitely a critical level of resistance. And if we can finally see a confirmed breakout above 88,000 with candle closes actually confirming above that level and ideally flipping that into new support, then in that situation, the next short-term price target, the next major point of resistance would be this previous point of support right here, flipping into new resistance at close to 92,000 approximately. We also have this 50% retracement level sitting at around 91,500 to 92,000, and then above that we would have that 96K level acting as major resistance. And as for support, once again, we have some short-term support to watch out for, but the next significant area of support, at least on this 3-day time frame right here, is sitting in between around 70,000 to 74,000. In other words, if the price of Bitcoin actually goes there, it's not guaranteed to go there, but if the price of Bitcoin goes there, we'll likely find a lot of demand. A lot of people will be interested in buying Bitcoin or opening long positions around that area on the price chart, especially closer to 70,000. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, obviously we still have this major descending line of resistance to pay attention to, which at the time of this previous rejection, that was sitting at close to 88,000. But right now, as of recording this video, it's sitting at closer towards around 86,500. And just before taking a look at some other important Bitcoin price charts today, first, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades right now over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses that are only available using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video as well. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive bonuses that you can only claim using that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange as well. But with that being said, taking a look at the short-term Bitcoin price action here on the 3-hour Bitcoin price chart. And obviously, as I've talked about over the last half a week, give or take, we've broken below this previous ascending line of support, which was sitting at just under 85,000. And I'd now expect resistance around that level approximately. And then we broke below this point of support right here, which was sitting at around 83,500. And right now, and over the last few days, this has been acting as perfect resistance. And just over the last few hours or so, we've just recently seen another rejection from that 83.5K level. And so at least in the imminent short term, continue to expect resistance around that level. But obviously, if we see a breakout above 83.5K with confirmation, so candle closes confirming above that level, then in that situation, simply just pay attention to these next points of resistance that I've been talking about here on the channel. And as for support, we have a lot of support at around 81.6K approximately, so close to 81,500. And just recently, that's pretty much exactly where we've seen multiple bounces from. And if we were to see a break below around 81,500 with confirmation, then in that situation, the next important point of support, at least in the short term, is sitting at around $80,000. And below that, I'll be watching around 78.5K. And something Something else to point out here on the 3-hour time frame, which is not really visible on any larger time frames, obviously. This is just looking at the short term here, but we do indeed have a new bullish divergence on the 3-hour time frame, once again with lower lows confirmed in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes and higher lows now confirmed in the 3-hour Bitcoin RSI. And now obviously if you've been watching my channel, watching my videos over the last couple of weeks or so, you'll know about that previous bullish divergence on the daily time frame that played out over a couple of weeks, give or take, before it just recently invalidated. So I expect something similar for this bullish divergence right here on the 3-hour time frame, but not over the same period of time, considering obviously it's on a different time frame to that daily time frame. And so basically I do expect, as always, the most common outcome, the most likely outcome from a bullish divergence is either a slight bullish relief or just a bit of choppy sideways price action. But considering it's only on the 3-hour time frame, this would likely just play out over a couple of days or so before it starts to lose relevance and basically gets closer towards invalidating. And so in the imminent short term, this is what I now expect moving forward, but keep in mind we cannot ignore support and resistance. So honestly, there's a good chance we could chop around sideways for a little bit, maybe for the next 1 or 2 days or so, while we're still finding resistance at this level at around 83.5k. But if we can finally break out above that level, then of course the bullish divergence can play out for a little longer, maybe the next few days. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, looking at the last 2 weeks worth of price action, because if you're looking at the larger time frames, honestly nothing much has changed on this chart right here on the slightly larger time frames over the last 1 day. But if we're taking a look at the last 2 weeks worth of price action, once again we can see that just recently we wiped out a bunch of long positions just a couple of days ago, give or take, and right now we have a small amount of liquidity building in the short term at just above 80,000 and just below 81,000, and we have a lot of liquidity building in the short term at around 89,000. And in case you're new to all of this, usually, not always, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where there's a lot of liquidity, so just keep that in mind. But as always, we cannot ignore these other points of support and resistance where the price can also struggle at. And with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, at least for now, nothing much has really changed on this weekly time frame right here on the larger time frames. So technically speaking, the larger price structure is still currently looking bearish. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, obviously right now we're still trading just below this Fibonacci level of support, sitting at around 1870 to 1880 approximately. And so obviously, at least on the 3-day time frame, this is also not looking too good. And the next major point of support, in case you're wondering, is sitting at just above 1.5k, around 1520 to 1540, give or take, based on these previous lows. But technically speaking, we still need to wait for confirmation here to actually confirm this break towards the downside. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, we now have a new possible bullish divergence that is right now flashing for Ethereum. But I want to make this clear, at least for now, this possible bullish divergence on the daily time frame is currently not confirmed. It is not in play, at least as of right now. We still need to wait for confirmation with at least 1 or 2 candle closes confirming here in the green to actually cement this high low in place in the RSI. And so obviously an example of that would be what we just saw for Bitcoin here on the 3-hour time frame. We definitely saw a decent bounce just recently here in the 3-hour Bitcoin RSI, properly cementing the higher low in place in the RSI, now confirming that bullish divergence in the short term for Bitcoin. And so we're still waiting for that confirmation to confirm the bullish divergence for Ethereum on the daily time frame. But keep in mind, because this is on the daily time frame, if it confirms over the next couple of days or so, this could potentially play out over the next couple of weeks. Because at least for now, obviously we are forming lower lows in the price in the candle closes and higher lows in the RSI on the daily time frame. And keep in mind, the RSI by default goes off candle closes. The input data is candle closes, so that's why I'm looking at the candle closes when it comes to the price action. Obviously, if we're looking at the candle wicks, for example, at least for now, we don't have lower lows in the price, but if we're using the candle wicks, would have to change the input data for the RSI, which is not the default input data. And so this is definitely something to watch just over the next couple of days if it actually confirms. But right now, once again, at least for now, it's not yet active. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, right now Solana is still simply trading in this major area of support, sitting in between 120 to 130. And at least in the imminent short term, the price of Solana is kind of lacking momentum to either direction. Obviously, we're not really seeing significant bullish or significant bearish price action, at least in the imminent short term right now. So honestly, I expect a continuation of this at least in the coming days, but perhaps in a week or two from now, we may end up seeing some more volatility, but at least for now, we're simply lacking momentum as the larger price structure is trying to look more bearish, but at the same time, running into significant support, preventing further bearish price action, at least for now. But honestly, nothing much has really changed for Solana over the last one day. So getting straight into the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, and at least for now on this 3-day chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence, which is technically still active for the price of XRP. So not much has changed on this chart over the last one day. But if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 8-hour time frame, we now have a new signal to pay attention to. And this is of course another bullish divergence with lower lows now confirmed in the price in the candle closes and higher lows currently forming, and have one confirmation here with the higher low in place in the RSI on the 8-hour time frame. And now ideally it would be even better obviously if we see a little bit more confirmation further cementing the higher low in place with a little bit more of a bounce in the RSI in the coming hours or over the next one day or so. But basically, at least for now, based on the current signals that we're seeing as of recording this video, it is likely we could see either a bit of choppy sideways price action in the coming days or maybe a slight bullish relief as the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And if we're taking a look at these previous examples of these bullish divergences on the 8-hour time frame, obviously basically both of these previous times we also hit oversold territories, just like what we saw recently in the 8-hour XRP RSI. And at the same time as running into oversold territories, we also saw the price running into major support in the short term. So basically, at least for now, history is repeating for XRP. And if we're looking at the outcomes of these previous signals in the price of XRP, we either saw just a slight bullish relief followed by a little choppy sideways price action over the next few days, or potentially much more of a bullish relief. But remember, XRP, along with a lot of the major altcoins out there, is highly correlated to what Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market is doing. So I don't necessarily expect a massive bullish move like that, for example, this time around, unless Bitcoin, for example, plays out a massive bullish move. And so honestly, I'll just not be surprised if we play out a bit of choppy sideways price action in the coming days, maybe with a slight bullish bias, basically just slowly drifting towards the upside in the next few days. Once again, this is only looking at the short term. And as for support and resistance, we still have a lot of support right now in between around $1.95 to $2.05, and major resistance in between around $2.24 to $2.30. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, obviously just recently we technically invalidated this bullish divergence on the daily chart as the price obviously rejected from this golden pocket right here, currently acting as major resistance in between around 1490 to 1550, with especially that 1550 level acting as a very strong resistance. And just recently we've seen the price retrace all the way back down towards this Fibonacci level of support, sitting at approximately 1270 to 1280, and so far from basically the nearest 10 cents or so, we've actually bounced from that level of support. So we're still finding support in the high $12 range at close to $13. But if the price of Chainlink confirms a break towards the downside with candle closes confirming below around 1270 to 1280, then in that situation, the next significant level of support towards the downside is sitting at around $10 per Chainlink. But obviously before that $10 level, once again, we still have a lot of support in the high $12 area, just below $13. And so as I've said recently here on the channel, I'll not be surprised if the price of Chainlink, at least in the shorter term, remains somewhat range bound between that point of support and that major area of resistance at roughly 1550, give or take. So just expect something similar to that, for example, in the coming days, possibly longer, maybe weeks, but at least over the next few days, a bit of choppy sideways price action in this area. But ultimately, at least for now, we're still currently forming a larger bearish trend until confirmed otherwise, as I've been saying for months now on the channel since much higher prices. But as always, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or shorts positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.